The old Victorian mansion stood at the end of a winding dirt road, its silhouette sharp against the twilight sky. Sarah pressed her face against the car window, her breath fogging the glass. "Are you sure this is the place?" she asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Her husband Mark checked his phone one more time. "Blackwood Manor. This is it." The reviews said it was atmospheric. "Atmospheric is one word for it," Sarah muttered as they pulled up to the iron gates. The manor was a wedding gift from Mark's eccentric Aunt Helen, who had passed away 3 months ago. "A week's honeymoon in the family estate," the letter had said. "May your love grow stronger within these walls." As they stepped out of the car, the October wind carried the scent of decaying leaves and something else, something older, mustier. The front door opened with a long creak before either of them could knock. "Hello," Mark called out into the darkness beyond. No answer came. They exchanged glances. Sarah laughed nervously. Maybe the wind. Inside, the manor was a time capsule from another era. Dusty chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, their crystals catching what little light filtered through grimy windows. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow the newlyweds as they explored. "It's charming," Sarah said, trying to sound optimistic. Their bedroom was on the second floor, down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. The four-poster bed dominated the room, draped in deep burgundy curtains that smelled of mothballs and age. That first night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The house groaned and whispered around them, settling into itself like an old woman lowering into a chair. At 3:17 a.m., she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, slow and deliberate. She shook Mark awake. "Do you hear that?" He rubbed his eyes, listened. "Old houses make noise, babe. It's just the floorboards." But the footsteps stopped right outside their door. Sarah held her breath, waiting. The doorknob turned slowly, a full rotation, then released with a soft click. No one entered. "Mark," she whispered urgently. "It's nothing," he mumbled, already drifting back to sleep. The next morning, Sarah found muddy footprints in the hallway, leading to their door and then away, down the stairs. But the prints were small, child-sized, and they ended abruptly at a blank wall. "Mark, look at this." He examined the prints, frowning. "Maybe the caretaker has a kid." "What caretaker? We're alone here." That afternoon, while Mark went to the village for supplies, Sarah explored the house. She found a locked door on the 3rd floor, the wood scratched and gouged as if someone had desperately tried to claw their way out, or in. In the library, she discovered Aunt Helen's diary, buried beneath stacks of yellowed newspapers. The final entry made her blood run cold. "The children won't stop crying. I hear them in the walls, behind the mirrors, under the floorboards. They want what was taken from them. They want to be whole again. I tried to leave, but the house won't let me. It never lets anyone leave once it's marked them. I'm so sorry for what I've done. Please, if anyone finds this, don't stay for the 7th night." The entry was dated exactly 1 week before Aunt Helen's death. Sarah's hands trembled as she counted the days. Tonight would be their 3rd night. When Mark returned, she showed him the diary. He read it, then set it down with a forced laugh. She was old, Sarah. Probably had dementia or something. You can't seriously believe. Then explain the footprints. Explain the doorknob turning. Explain why there are scratch marks on that locked door. There's a rational explanation for everything. But that night, they both heard the children singing. A lullaby, soft and sweet, drifting through the walls. The melody was ancient, in a language neither of them recognized. Mark finally sat up, his face pale. Okay, I heard that. The singing grew louder, joined by more voices. A chorus of children, their song rising and falling like waves against a shore. Then, abruptly, it stopped. In the silence that followed, something scratched against their bedroom door, nails on wood, slow and rhythmic. Sarah grabbed Mark's arm. We're leaving. Now. They threw their belongings into suitcases, not bothering to fold anything. But when they reached the front door, it wouldn't open. The handle turned uselessly, the lock mechanism broken from the inside. Every window they tried was the same, painted shut or somehow sealed. The back door, Mark said, pulling Sarah toward the kitchen. The scratching followed them, moving through the walls, keeping pace. They could hear it traveling above their heads, beside them, sometimes ahead of them. The back door was blocked by an old armoire that neither of them remembered seeing before. It would take both of them to move it, but when Mark tried to push, the armoire wouldn't budge, as if it were bolted to the floor. Upstairs, Sarah said suddenly. The third-floor window. We can climb down. They ran up the stairs, the scratching multiplying around them. Now it sounded like dozens of small hands, all clawing at once. The locked door on the third floor stood open. Beyond it was a nursery, preserved like a shrine. 7 small beds lined the walls, each one made with precision, a doll sitting on each pillow. The doll's glass eyes reflected the moonlight streaming through the window. On the wall, in childish handwriting, someone had written over and over, "Mother promised we could leave. Mother lied. Mother must pay." Helen had children. Sarah whispered. Mark picked up a framed photograph from a dresser. It showed a much younger Aunt Helen standing with 7 children, all around the same age, maybe 6 or 7 years old. But something was wrong with the photo. The children's faces were blurred, as if they'd moved during the exposure, or as if they'd been deliberately scratched out. Behind the photograph was a newspaper clipping. Local woman questioned in orphanage fire, 7 children missing. The date was 40 years ago. The scratching stopped. In the sudden silence, they heard breathing, small, rapid breaths coming from all around them. The dolls' heads turned in unison to face them. "Run," Mark said. They bolted from the nursery, down the hallway. Behind them, they could hear tiny feet pattering, giving chase. Sarah risked a glance back and saw them. Children made of shadow and smoke, their eyes burning with cold light, their mouths open in silent screams. They reached the bedroom and slammed the door. Mark shoved the dresser against it. Then the chair, anything heavy. Something hit the door from the other side. Then another impact. And another. The window. Sarah screamed. They ran to it, threw it open. The drop was 2 stories, but there was a trellis, old and probably rotten, but maybe, just maybe. The bedroom door exploded inward. The furniture scattered like toys. Mark went through the window first, scrambling down the trellis. Sarah followed, her hands bleeding as she gripped the ancient wood. Below, Mark was shouting encouragement. She was halfway down when she felt small, cold hands grab her ankle. She looked up. A child's face, translucent and terrible, stared down at her. Its mouth moved, forming words she couldn't hear but somehow understood. "You're family now. Family doesn't leave." Sarah kicked hard, her foot passing through the apparition. She lost her grip and fell, landing hard on the ground beside Mark. Pain shot through her ankle. "Can you walk?" Mark asked, helping her up. "I'll crawl if I have to." They limped toward their car as fast as Sarah's injured ankle would allow. Behind them, the manor was alive with lights flickering in every window. The children's faces pressed against the glass, watching them go. Mark fumbled with the car keys, his hands shaking. The engine roared to life. As they sped down the dirt road, Sarah looked back one final time. The children stood in a line across the manor's front steps, holding hands, and in the center, taller than the rest, stood the figure of Aunt Helen. She was smiling. They drove through the night, not stopping until they reached the city 3 hours away. At a hospital, Sarah's ankle was x-rayed, badly sprained but not broken. The doctor asked how it happened. "I fell," she said simply. What else could she say? They checked into a hotel and didn't speak about Blackwood Manor. Not that night, not the next day. It was as if acknowledging what happened would make it more real. A week later, Sarah received a letter. No return address, but she recognized Aunt Helen's handwriting. Inside was a single sentence: "Thank you for the visit. The children enjoyed meeting you. They hope you'll come back soon. After all, you're family now." At the bottom of the letter was a photograph, one they hadn't taken. It showed Sarah and Mark sleeping in their hotel bed. And standing in the corner of the room, barely visible in the darkness, were 7 small figures. Waiting. Mark found Sarah staring at the photograph, tears streaming down her face. "What is it?" he asked, then saw the image and went pale. That night, they heard it for the first time in the city, singing, soft and distant, coming from somewhere neither of them could locate. A lullaby in an unknown language. The children's song. And they realized that leaving Blackwood Manor didn't mean escaping it. The house had marked them, and the children would never let them go.